Coming to you live from Radio Cayman Studio.
For the record.
For the record. Hear from your government officials, independents, and the opposition on issues that matter to you. The record. Engage in an open dialogue between residents and lawmakers.
For the record.
The record. Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record. And now, your host, Orit Connor.
And good morning, Cayman. I am Donna Bush in this Monday morning for Mr. Orit Connor, who's hopefully enjoying himself on vacation somewhere. It's a pleasure to be here again this beautiful Monday morning in the Cayman Islands. If you're out there on your way into work, we hope that you've tuned in. We have some things to talk about this morning with our guests who will be coming to us from the Family Resource Center. She will be joining us in just a little bit. However, meantime, I'd like to just remind you of some numbers that you can call to join us this morning with any questions or any comments that you would like to make here on For the Record. Those numbers are 925-3261. That's 925-3261. You can text us or WhatsApp us on that number. As well, the toll-free number is 1-800-534-8255. Again, that's 1-800-534-8255. As well, you can give us a call on 949-8037. That's 949-8037. Again, give us a call with any of your concerns this morning, any questions that you may have as we await the arrival of our guests. Meantime, if you haven't picked up the copy of your Cayman Compass this morning, there's a headline story called Traffic Accidents Double Over 2 Years. I'd just like to go through the story really quick. It says those short sections of the road will get you and I'm quoting directly from the story here. Fortunately, they're not likely to kill you. A review of data provided by the Cayman Islands Royal Police Service shows that in the past 3 years, reported accidents in the islands have more than doubled. The data also shows some of the island's minor roads are most prone for accidents. The worst culprit, Godfrey Nixon Way. If you're like me, a driver, I'm sure you travel that road, if not several times a day, at least once a day, several times a week. I find that, it's just a matter of paying attention and focusing. As a driver on the road, it sometimes drives me crazy how some of our motorists are not aware, not focused, not compassionate against other drivers on the road. It's really frustrating for some drivers, I have to say. I always say there's 20 minutes to everywhere in Cayman, and most places it's less time than that. So there's no rush. Why is there a rush to get anywhere? I just want to throw that out there to everybody. There was an example of that this morning when I was coming in to work or here and on the show, on the For the Record show. There's a bicycle lane on the left-hand side. Well, I have to say I saw I think he was probably a semi-pro bicyclist riding down the middle of the two lanes. That's dangerous. Not everybody is looking in their rearview mirror and their side mirrors. They should be, but they're not. But I almost had my heart in my stomach for this cyclist because I'm saying, doesn't he know? Isn't he aware of what he's doing? Go in the cyclist lane. You're safer there because the chances of, something happening to you is very high, particularly as people, move to get into work. Some people are rushing. My fellow listeners out there here on Radio Cayman this morning, there's no need to rush. Just leave a little bit earlier. Calm yourself down before you get to work. I know that some of us experience road rage on our little roads, but, just bear with each other. Be mindful of each other. Be courteous to each other. That's another thing. Some people are just so discourteous. They just, it just amazes me sometimes how some of our fellow human beings can be. But that's the lead story for this morning in the Cayman Compass. Traffic accidents double over 2 years. folks, again, just be more cognizant and mindful of your fellow motorists so that they can, everybody can be safe on our roads. A lot of minor accidents happening. I mean, within like a 2-week period, sometimes the RCIPS has been recording the number of accidents to be as high as 58 to 60 fender benders. That's just uncalled for. Pay attention to the road. I would advise the RCIPS and their officers to be out, be on a lookout for people who are on their phones. We see people on their phones all the time. It just takes a few minutes just to pull over to the side of the road or not answer your phone, whatever the case may be. But being on your phone in most other countries is like major breaking the law. You get tickets for that all the time. And actually, you're endangering the lives of others and yourself. So again, that's the lead story this morning in the Cayman Compass, a traffic accident. I mentioned earlier to you that today we would be talking about the Family Resource Center, in particular, International Honoring Women Month here in the Cayman Islands, which is in March. And my guest this morning is Program Coordinator Charmaine Miller from the FRC. Thank you for being here with us, Charmaine. It's wonderful to have you with us here this Monday morning. I want to begin by not assuming that everyone knows what the role of the Family Resource Center is, what ministry it falls under, what department it falls under. So let's tell our listeners out there about the FRC.
Sure. So the Family Resource Center is part of the Department of Counseling Services. We fall under a ministry, which is Ministry of Health, Environment, Housing, and Culture. And so as part of the Department of Counseling Services, our mandate is to provide services and programs to families in the community. At the core of all our services is parenting, but we also provide crisis intervention, victim advocacy, as well as facilitate various public awareness campaigns throughout the year, hence our Honoring Women Month, which is our first campaign for the year.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about all the services and programs that you do offer there at the FRC later on.
Okay.
But let's roll out our Honoring Women Month campaign. What is it that we need to know about Honoring Women Month? What is it all about? What's the objective? How many years has this been?
Definitely. So Honoring Women Month has been taking place for the past 19 years locally here in the Cayman Islands. We're very fortunate in that the campaign keeps growing every year, and we definitely, have a captive audience that look forward to the various events that we organize in honor of women. And so Honoring Women Month, in a nutshell, is about celebrating women, our achievements, our advancements that we've made, not only locally but internationally, as well as shining light on some of those gender-related issues that oftentimes are hard to talk about, but the conversation needs to happen, whether it is at a policy level, whether it is at a community level. And so that's what that's what Honoring Women Month is about. It's about raising awareness about those issues and developing some form of action plan, whether it is personally or professionally in your work setting, of how you can promote, gender equality.
Since you've been at the FRC, what kind of interests and growth have you seen during this month?
Well, during this month, we've definitely been fortunate, like I said, in people actually having an interest in Honoring Women Month. Locally, at a community-based level, we develop these parenting sessions that focus on raising resilient girls. What can parents do to ensure that our girls are feeling confident? They feel good about themselves. They feel good about putting themselves in opportunities that they are keen on or they're passionate of, and they don't feel restricted because of their gender. So that conversation continues to happen at a local level. When it comes to the various activities that we've organized over the year, obviously, our walk run is very well known and popular here in Cayman. It's something that has branched out and not only seen as a women run, but a family run, something that anyone can engage in and raise awareness for the cause, which is all about women empowerment. All the funding that's raised for that during that walk pretty much goes through all our programs, that we deliver throughout the year. Family Resource Center, all the programs that we offer are free, right? Considering that we are a government agency. So whether we're called into a school to deliver an anti-bullying prevention workshop, whether it is a domestic violence group that needs to be facilitated in the community, those are programs that are offered, and they're part of the services that we do. But they wouldn't be as successful if we didn't have the opportunity to fundraise for those. And so obviously in terms of International Women's Day, that pretty much takes front and center when it comes to Honoring Women Month. It happens every 8th of the month. And so we join various countries across the world that celebrate women, and they do this very creatively, whether it is through panel discussions of women in the business field, or, women that have pretty much created the path for others to be in the positions that they are today. And so last year what we did in honor of the theme was Be Bold for Change, right? And we had the opportunity to bring forward, along with the ministry who was assisting us back then, which was the Ministry of Gender Affairs. They were our major sponsors, and we're fortunate in bringing down Dr. Jackson Katz, who's part of this global growing movement that speaks to men being involved when we talk about gender-related issues and issues that oftentimes get labeled as women issues, right? And so we wanted to build on that conversation, and hence we decided to bring him back down so that we can facilitate leadership trainings, as opposed to just having the conversation about these issues, whether it is domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual harassment. We wanted to make sure that participants this year, or our community as a whole at various levels, were trained and had a deeper understanding of how they can start interrupting these conversations and how they can start pressing for change at various levels.
So last year the theme was Be Bold for Change.
Be bold for change.
What is it this year?
This year's theme, is Press for Progress, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've decided to bring Dr. Katz back, and I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are happy to hear that, because, they hear Honoring Women Month, and there's some men out there and other people out there who may say, well, what about men?
Yeah.
So the involvement, shows that there's progression there for all of us.
Absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about Dr. Katz.
So Dr. Katz is a global activist. He's very well known for, he's a global activist, educator, cultural theorist. He's been instrumental in joining different movements, definitely internationally. He is an advocate, right? And so a lot of the issues that he talks about are domestic violence, sexual assault, sexual harassments, and he facilitates trainings at various levels, whether it is in sports departments, in the military, at different sectors, public and private. And so his overall goal when he does this is to not only have conversations about how we can not necessarily eliminate, but minimize incidents of these different types of situations, but also make sure that we're playing an active role as citizens, as members, whether it is members of the public and private sector, in interrupting conversations that are sexist, right? And start to place some accountability on ourselves. And considering that he's a man, I think initially it was something that was different, and that's what's pretty much taken up a lot of sort of he's attracted a lot of attention from that, because women's movement or women empowerment programs are often driven by women, right? Fairly so. But at the same time, if we can have our counterparts joining this movement, it creates a more powerful impact. And that's what Dr. Jackson Katz represents. That is what he's known for. He's got a very famous TED Talk that went viral, which speaks to domestic violence being a man's issue, right? And we had that TED Talk since it was found about 4 or 5 years ago. We've added that into our domestic violence intervention training program whenever we touch on gender, right, and domestic violence. And so we've used his TED Talk as a mechanism and as a way to further accelerate the discussion around domestic violence. And it's really interesting, the feedback that we do get from our participants, because our domestic violence training program consists of whether it, frontline professionals, the police, DCFS workers, members of pretty much that are part of human and social services, as well as local entities that are interested in learning more about domestic violence. So we do have church workers, we do have health service providers that are interested in learning more, because it does affect their field and it does affect their area of work. And so whenever we we do, show the video clip, and we show our participants the TED Talk, it's always really interesting to hear the feedback, right? Because our men tend to get a little bit uncomfortable. And so when we process that level of discomfort, it really and truly speaks to the fact that a lot of the points that he's talking about is true, but it's hard. It's hard for men to sometimes interrupt other men who are, who are being sexist, who are pretty much stuck in their own role, their own sort of gender box, and have these other gender stereotypes about what women should be, what they should be doing. And so sometimes when that conversation starts to happen, people get uncomfortable with that. It's not to say that they're not in agreement, but it's new, it's different, right? And so when we do what we do, we debrief some of that. And a lot of, and a special invitation was actually sent out to our previous domestic violence participants, because this is a continuation of that training. It allows them to gain some skills and strategies of how they can get more comfortable, and it's going to be a very interactive and dynamic session. I recently just received a couple of scenarios that are going to be part of this training, and it's fascinating. I think it's going to be really interesting, because things that people are, not comfortable interrupting or talking about, this is going to be an opportunity for you to get more skills and learn how to have those conversations at a deeper level.
All right. Well, Charmaine, we're going to continue this very interesting conversation when we come back on For the Record. Right now, we're going to go to a break. And welcome back to For the Record. If you're just joining us on this beautiful Monday morning here in the Cayman Islands, I am Donna Bush. I'm in for Ort Connor this week. Glad you could join us. If you are just joining us as a listener here on Radio Cayman, in studio with us this morning is Ms. Charmaine Miller, or Mrs. Charmaine Miller, I should say. She is the program coordinator at the Family Resource Center. Just to recap, she told us a little bit about the Family Resource Center and the fact that they provide many services and programs geared towards parents, those who may be going through domestic violence cases, that sort of stuff, but everything to do with the family. Those services are provided free through the government at the Family Resource Center. But this morning our focus is on Honoring Women Month, which is in March, begins on March the 1st for the entire month. Lots and lots of activities happening there. I, though, just wanted to touch on a few things from our previous conversation right before the break with Charmaine. I was saying to her during the break that, I kind of get the feeling that many in our community feel that the Family Resource Center and their programs that they provide are just geared towards, persons who are court mandated to go there, or who, are going through some type of parental or, issues with their kids, that sort of stuff. And I would disagree with that. And I'm saying this because I myself have gone to several programs, evening programs after work with my younger daughter. This was a few years back. And I found it to be so refreshing and so great to be a part of their programs that they had in the evening. If you can refresh my memory, Charmaine, I don't remember what the programs were.
Family skills sessions.
Yes. And we can all, let's face it, listeners, we can all build on our family skills. Sure. There's no book on parenting. Nobody tells you what's right and what's wrong, and how to do it. It's a learning process for all of us.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go with my daughter to see what it would be like. I met some wonderful people.
Yeah.
We had refreshments. We had dinner.
Yeah.
It was great conversation, which I love. And it gave me an opportunity to interact with other parents, for my daughter to learn things, for myself to learn things. And although I don't go to those sessions anymore, I just felt that it was a great opportunity. And I would encourage any parent that's listening out there that you just want an evening out with your kids or your child, and you want to find out more about this program, give the FRC a call so that you can attend their next family skills session, which, again, like I say, I'm an advocate for.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for endorsing it.
Absolutely. Anytime. Also, before we went to the break, sorry, you talked about the speaker that's going to be coming down for this year's Honoring Women Month, and how he'll be leading some workshops, and we'll talk about those in just a few minutes. But he's going to be obviously talking about the uncomfortable subjects, which we know are things like gender bias, sexual abuse, domestic violence. Those are the uncomfortable subjects that I'm so thrilled that the FRC continues to shine a light upon. Other organizations as well. But we have to really stop pushing these things under the rug. So you guys are lifting the rug
Definitely.
and pulling it all out. So continue to tell us a little bit about what Dr. Katz's position will be when he comes here, and about the leadership sessions in particular.
Sure. So the overall, if I could say, agenda of the training is definitely, first and foremost, he's going to be touching on what leadership is. And most importantly, what good leadership looks like, right? So there's going to be a conversation about what good leadership looks like. How do you apply that definition to these gender-related issues? And in the application of that, how does that make you a leader, a good leader in your professional setting, as well in your personal life, right? And so that's really important, because we all have these different definitions, sort of, we all want to be leaders, we all want to be good leaders, but what does that look like? And we've been very strategic in breaking down how these workshops are going to be delivered. We've got different groups, of course, so that the conversations can be had based on your group levels. At 9 a.m. on the 1st of March, we're kicking off Honoring Women Month with the workshop specifically designed for our civil servant leaders, right? And so they're going to have that 3-hour training in which they're going to be touching on that. They're going to be introduced to the bystander approach, which Dr. Jackson Katz has been instrumental in developing. And so the bystander approach is all about peers in their own culture getting comfortable with interrupting the sexist conversations and sexist behaviors, and how do they go ahead and do that, and how does that sort of fit into being a good leader? How do you get to do that at various levels, in your work and culture, and make sure that you're relaying the message? Something that was really important to us when we were having conversations of what we'd like this training to be like was, we all have policies in our workplace. When it comes to sexual harassment, our government has policies, right? And the private sector does too. But sometimes we see those policies are just like, yeah, we have a policy, right? But how do we make sure that policy is organically embedded in your culture, in your working culture, where we know where we're behaving according to that policy, and it's not just this thing, right? This is happening, I'm going to report, but do I get, how do I go ahead and do that? I know as a victim, it's kind of hard for me to do it. I don't feel comfortable. Everybody else is laughing at it, or whatever it is, right? So it's kind of making sure that the policy doesn't get stuck in being a policy and being something that is foreign to us, but it's organically embedded in our working culture, and we're comfortable in it being, in it being something that is naturally expected, and it's something that everyone is comfortable in doing so. So that was something that we want to make sure he's been introduced to it already, and processing that, so that he understands the context of our policy here in Cayman, particularly our civil servant policy, and how he can additionally sort of like give recommendations to the private sector on how they can refine some of their policies and make sure that it's definitely friendly, and it's something that victims feel comfortable with pursuing despite their unfortunate circumstances. So
the dynamics of Cayman society too. As a society, Caymanians in a whole have typically been very tolerant of what the rest of the world considers to be sexual harassment.
Right.
If we walk up to a gentleman that we know and we say, "Hey, sweetie, how are you?" and just give them a hug. To us, that's normal.
Right.
There's nothing bad about that or uncomfortable about that. But we have such a diverse population and 125 other cultures that we really have to be mindful. We may not want to be, but it's the reality of the situation. So so that's a great thing that he's going to be talking about that. So you pointed out that civil servants will be one part of one target part of the leadership workshop.
Sure.
What are
the other ones? We're looking at having a group specifically for human resource professionals and managers, right? Because they too are the ones that pretty much they're your go-to person when you're having these difficulties,
drivers,
right? They're the drivers, and they're the ones that need to pretty much have the tools and strategies to ensure that these issues are addressed with an empathic manner, but still head on. Then we're targeting our human service professionals, mental health professionals that already have some background information on this, but would definitely help them refine their work. So whether it is our probation officers, our social workers, our human service professionals, our mental health professionals, that group is specifically targeted for them. And then there's an open group for sports coaches, community members, and additional citizens citizens that are just interested. And so a lot of them attended our previous session last year, and we're thrilled by it. We've gotten great response. Registrations are rapidly filling in. So that just speaks to how much they've embraced Dr. Katz and his ideologies and believe in it, and believe that there's a place for that in Cayman.
Why do you think it's important to have someone from outside who can look at things differently come in and give us another perspective? And do you really think that is helping us progress in the areas of addressing these issues of great concern? I'm going to ask you to just stick a pin there and before you answer that question, and we're going to just take a quick time check here. Sorry, I got... For the record, I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Ort Connor this week. In our studio this morning with us, we have the program coordinator of the Family Resource Center, Mrs. Charmaine Miller. She's here talking to us about Honoring Women Month, which begins on Thursday, March 1st for the entire month. We were talking about the guest speaker this year, Mr. Jackson Katz. He was here last year. He's back again for a second year, and why it is that the FRC decided to bring Dr. Katz back. So, Charmaine, welcome. It's great for you to be here. I know this is your first time, and for the record, hopefully it won't be your last. So let's talk about why Dr. Katz is here again.
So as I said, I mean, Dr. Katz has been part of this global movement. He's pretty much if I could say, the sole supplier of what he's pretty much has created as a brand for him, being part of the co-founders of Mentors of Violence Prevention. He's been instrumental in creating the bystander approach. He's a world-renowned leader when it comes to the movement of men getting involved and working towards the prevention of gender violence and working towards the progress for gender equality. So we wanted to bring him down because of what he represents. We also thought that it would be important to have a male speaker to come forward and channel some of those myths and challenge some of those myths and help debunking the myths that we have about men being involved in this in accelerating gender equality and making sure that they are, they're instrumental as part of this movement. Debunking that, and our society is a very patriarchal one, so we thought it would be definitely more impactful and powerful to make sure that we had a male speaker, to challenge some of those myths. And so this is also an opportunity and it's a call on our men, our men at all levels, to make sure that they have a strong presence, that they're presenting some of their issues themselves when it comes to the progression of gender equality and the prevention of gender violence, and discussing those at that level that Jackson Katz can definitely help sustain a very informative and educational conversation.
Now, I know there's some men that are listening out there, or some of our women out there who are listening that maybe feel that, why not have a brother, an uncle, a husband, a son be a part of the workshop that's coming up? Can you give them a little bit more details on how they can, how the men can enroll in being a part of the workshop?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can give us a call at 949-0006, or you can send us an email at iwd@gov.ky. There'll be an automatic response there in which you'll be sort of redirected to a registration link, and you can register online. So you just have to email us at iwd@gov.ky. If you're having issues with registration, give us a call at 949-0006. There is, for anyone who's just interested in learning more as a volunteer or wants to learn more about what this gentleman offers and just wants to get more experience, there's a slot available from 2 to 5 on March 2nd for community members, sports members. And so it's just a matter of registration. As I said before, registration is quickly coming in. So register yourself and feel free to come on in and, be educated on how you can play an important role in the prevention of gender violence.
So this is all happening the 2nd, March
the 1st and the 2nd. So it's across
Thursday
2 days.
Friday this week.
It's across 2 days, and it's a 3-hour workshop that'll be happening across those 2 days.
I'd just like to encourage anyone that's listening out there that feels that we can all learn. Look, take the time invest the time to go and be a part of one of these workshops. I don't think you will lose anything by it because it's an investment in your family, and it's an investment in knowledge building and in experience and so on and so forth. And these ladies at the FRC, along with Dr. Katz, I'm sure are going to do a phenomenal job in the way that they organize and bring you the information that you need. For our listeners out there who may want to give us a call this morning to ask a question of Charmaine, or to simply voice their concerns or talk about an issue, the numbers to call are 949-8037. That's 949-8037. You can WhatsApp us or text us at 925-3261. That's 925-3261. Or you can call toll-free at 1-800-534-8255. That's 1-800-534-8255. Again, we're here talking about Honoring Women Month. We just spoke about the Dr. Jackson Katz, who will be here to lead some workshops this year as part of Honoring Women Month with the Family Resource Center. Let's talk a little bit about, all of the events that will be taking place.
Definitely.
And let's break down how persons can get involved in each event, where they're going to be held, what date.
Sure. So if you're interested in other events, we've got our Color Me Purple 5K, which is happening on the 17th of March and the 18th of March. The 17th of March is happening at Cayman. So there are two locations. It's a walk run. The walk begins at 6:30, and for runners, it'll begin at 7. Then we've got our Color Me Purple 5K on South Sound. And so that's happening on the 18th of March, same time, 6:30 for walkers, 7 o'clock for runners. You can register on Cayman Active, or you can stop by our offices on North Sound Road, where, give us a call at 949-0006. We're also going to be at the government admin building, I believe, this week, I believe tomorrow. And we're also going to be selling our T-shirts and doing registrations at the various Foster's locations. So thank you, Foster's, for organizing that for us. We've had an opportunity to also partner with Art Nest, which has been quite successful over the past year. They've been taking up a lot of business, and it's generated a lot of interest in our community in terms of, feeling, a lot of people can say that they're not very artsy, but once they're done with Art Nest, it's kind of like, wow, I didn't know I was able to create that. And so Art Nest really liked the idea of partnering with FRC and creating a canvas that was specifically in honor of International Women's Day. And so they have it already posted on their March calendar. So if you're interested in participating in the International Women's Day canvas and mocktail session, please feel free to call Art Nest, or you can give us a call and we'll redirect you to Art Nest. We have our church session, which is happening on the 25th of March, and that's been happening for the past years that we've been celebrating Honoring Women Month. It's an opportunity to gather spiritually and commemorate the month and make sure that we are having these discussions and having these discussions at all levels in different contexts, and the importance of bringing forward to light all the gender-related issues that women face and how we can assist in progressing that.
The church service is being held where?
The church service is being held in West Bay at 10 a.m. I think it's the John Gray Memorial,
which is at the four-way stop.
Right.
You make a right at the four-way stop if you're going into West Bay. Okay, and then the run walk, there's a Cayman location, which really facilitates persons living on that end.
Yes.
Or if you're like me and you just appreciate the serenity and the quietness of Cayman. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Why not do that? I think that's just amazing that that you guys are accommodating and continue to accommodate folks on that end of the island.
And this year, we've decided to make it a bit more special because I don't know if you're familiar with Miss Wendy Quinlan, who passed away a couple years ago. Yes. She was instrumental in assisting us with this walk at Cayman. She took it very personal, and she was just such a driving force behind it. And we want to make sure that we keep on living her legacy and just making sure that the walk doesn't, or the walk doesn't really just sort of not happen anymore. I think it's really important to honor her efforts also, and make sure that we're catering to that community, which she was very passionate about. And so this March, is going to be a special tribute to Miss Wendy Quinlan, for all her effort and just being such an active community member and supporting the Family Resource Center.
That's great. Well, as you're listening this morning, I again would like to encourage everyone to get involved with the Family Resource Center's Run Walk, which sounds like it's going to be an amazing event. Don't forget the leadership workshop coming up this week. If you can, get registered for that. It's 949-0006, the number to call. They will get you registered and get you sorted. Don't panic if you go online and for some reason, you don't know what you're doing or, something happens. So that's a wonderful thing. Also, I realized recently that you guys are getting a new website.
We are. I'm actually looking at it today around midday. So we're hoping to have that live as soon as possible. And we're really excited about that because, we're living in a highly technological world.
Yes.
And we really wanted to make sure that our website was a reflection of what's happening with us and was current. And definitely, along with that being current, accessible, right? To make sure that individuals who are interested in signing up for a family skill session, like you just mentioned, were able to do that online. Right. And so it was simple, easy, and something easy for them to just access and know that, I'm registered, I'm going to move forward, I'm going to the family skill session, right? And so you'll be able to stay up to date with all the different programs. We're going to have a quarterly programming calendar. You can sometimes register in advance for those family skill sessions or stay up to date with our public awareness campaign. If you're interested in volunteering, there's going to be a tab also that you can click on and just become a volunteer or register to become a volunteer and begin the process in that way. So we're really excited about that. And we're going to have a departmental website too. So it's not only going to be for the Family Resource Center, there's also going to be a section for the counselors at the counseling center. They're going to have their own website as well as Caribbean Haven Residential Center. So definitely very excited about that.
All right. Well, we have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to For the Record. Do you have a question or a concern you'd like to talk about this morning here?
Yes, I want to talk about you, sweetie. Hi, Pumpkin. How are you and your guest there?
I'm doing just fine, and my guest is fabulous. She is
yes, and I'm
awesome.
happy to hear that. When I hear your voice, it's like I get a piece of gold.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, and I want to tell the world that Miss Donna Bush is the best.
Oh,
one of the best. I have another best too.
That's good. Share the love. Share the love. Thank you so much. I wish you an awesome day. I can't remember. I'm so sorry. I know so many people. Who is it?
Remember, but I never forget you. This is Henrietta.
Oh, Miss Henrietta. Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? I don't want to take too much of our personal time here catching up on the radio show. Why don't you give me a call over at the government building, 949-7900, and have them put you through to me so that we can catch up. But I'm so appreciative of you calling, taking the time to call this morning and you're so kind. Thank you.
You're so nice. Have a good day, you and your guest.
You too, Miss Henrietta. Take care. All righty. Oh, okay.
That was nice.
Yes, that was really, really nice. Yes, it was. So if you're just tuning in, we have the program coordinator from the Family Resource Center, Mrs. Charmaine Miller, with us this morning. We've been talking about Honoring Women Month. What I'd like to do now is talk about the many services that are offered by the Family Resource Center. And then, of course, we'll recap Honoring Women Month and the opportunities that are there for everyone, men and women, families to get involved during the month of March. Sure. So let's go down the list of the many services that you offer. I know one of them is called SNAP. There's a program called SNAP that's new. What's that about?
Definitely. SNAP stands for Stop Now and Plan. It is a proven program that's actually been in existence over the past 30 years in Canada. We were recently trained in SNAP last year, and we've we're on to our second cohort of SNAP. SNAP is a program that's targeted specifically for children who are struggling with behavioral issues.
Okay.
So whether your child is, and obviously it's very age specific and gender specific. If your child is between the ages of 6 to 11, then SNAP is targeted specifically for that age range. If your child is struggling with following rules, appears to be or is physically or verbally aggressive, is experiencing bullying, or is might be a bully themselves or is a victim of bullying. Generally, these are the children that oftentimes, are struggling in the school setting or struggling to follow structure and rules. And so SNAP is specifically targeted for that. It is a 13-week program. It's very intense. We thought prior to getting trained in this program, we were very fortunate in attending an information session about it, which Youth Act has been instrumental in bringing SNAP to the Cayman Islands. We attended the session, and there were a lot of similarities with SNAP in terms of similarities between what we were currently delivering and what SNAP offered. And that the main similarity was that they were working with the entire family system, right? And so we believe, obviously, when it comes to in keeping with best practices, that we can't just work with one individual within that family, right? That if we're gonna create and sustain change, it needs to be across the board. We need to target every individual that is living in that household. And so SNAP works with the child. With the specific SNAP child, it works with the parent or that single parent, the grandmother, whoever is part of that household and has some authority, as well as the siblings, right? So it is very staff heavy. We have about 9 staff members right now operating SNAP. And so because, we've got our SNAP children or SNAP boys right now between the ages of 6 to 11, and so they have 2 facilitators working with them. Our parents have 2 facilitators. Then we've got 2 different age groups for siblings, because we can't ignore the facts that some of the issues that these SNAP boys or girls may have are with the siblings themselves, right? So everyone's learning the same language, everyone's understanding, and they should be on the same page in terms of supporting one another, in terms of learning skills and strategy to try to teach more emotion regulation and help our children or our boys or girls develop more strategies to avoid, these explosive episodes. And so that's what SNAP is for. As I said, it is a 13-week program. Sometimes we look at these programs and think, oh my God, that is a long time.
It's not.
It's really not. And look at it, it's about perspective as a family investment. This is an investment in your family. Things haven't been working, right? And so why not explore other options, right? I mean, I can 100% guarantee that if you're coming to a 13-week program, you are not leaving with nothing.
Right.
Right. You are going to be leaving with some skills, and we're going to try to make sure that they're applicable to your environment, along with the group setting, because it's happening within a group setting. You're also coupled with some individual sessions, right? So if you're struggling with some concepts in the group setting, we'll have our parent coaches or facilitators make sure that we're working with you, one-on-one, so that the experience is a positive one, it's a rewarding one, and it's something that you can say, you know what, I've made some positive changes in my family. And we're very proud of SNAP. Right now we have 4 families engaged in SNAP. We have capacity of up to 7. Okay. We're going to start recruiting again around April for the next cohort, which will begin early September. So it's definitely very intensive, but extremely, extremely relevant to some of the issues. And it's about early intervention. What we were noticing again when we were revisiting our programs is that we're getting kids, we're getting parents who are coming in very frustrated, and I don't want to say it's too late, when your kid is 13 and there's no relationship there, and you're really struggling with them complying, with things that you might think like, come on, like when I was growing up, this wasn't an issue. What's going on? Right. And so it's about starting to address these behaviors from very early. And that's why there's that age. That's why it's so age specific, right? Because at 6, or at 5, when these behaviors start to display themselves, we kind of look at it as, oh, it's just a phase. They're gonna grow out of it. It's okay, but it's not, right? Yeah. And so if we can start tackling it from very early, then you'll start noticing, you'll start seeing some real difference, and your children are going to be coached, and they're going to learn how to regulate those emotions. The boys group is very dynamic. They're learning. Last week's topic was about controlling your anger, right? And so we make it very interactive for them. They have a session. They have out of that hour and a half, because the session runs from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Now, this is a time frame that worked for the group of families. Right? It doesn't have to be that specific time frame. If we have families that have registered and we've got 5 to 7 families that, if FRC can start this group at 5:30 and we can wrap it up at 7, then we will. We're very flexible with that, because we're going to work with the family, with the families that sign up. And so we're very, like I said, the groups are very interactive and the families are learning every week as they go.
All right, we're going to stick a pin there and go to a break. And welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in this Monday morning for Mr. Orrit Connor. And for the rest of the week on Wednesday and Friday, you can join us on those days as well. If you're just tuning in, we are fortunate enough to have the program coordinator of the Family Resource Center, Mrs. Charmaine Miller, with us this Monday morning. We've been talking about Honoring Women Month, which begins this Thursday, March the 1st through the 30th, the 31st of March. We've talked a little bit about that. Now we're on to the various programs and services that are offered by the wonderful staff at the Family Resource Center. We were talking when we went to the break about a program called SNAP. So if you could just give us a little quick synopsis of what SNAP is and continue from where we were.
Sure. So SNAP is a program that's designed specifically for boys or girls within the ages of 6 to 11. It's designed for children who have behavioral issues, conduct issues, attention deficit issues. And so if your child is either physically, verbally aggressive, is struggling with rules, SNAP is the program for your child, right? It is a 13-week program. It works with the entire family system. And so we are all trained in SNAP. It's been operating for the past 30 years in Canada. And so it has high success rate. And we wanted to make sure that we were catering to that need that was evident when it came to working with our families individually and through the Family Resource Center. So that's just one of the programs. I was mentioning to Donna earlier on that we have a positive discipline workshop, which has pretty much taken off. I'm really proud of that workshop. It spoke to the demand and the need of making sure that we were delivering groups that were effective and needed in our community. And discipline has always been something that is a touchy topic, right? In working with our families, nobody wants to be told how to discipline their child, right? And we all have our own experiences. And if this used to work for my child back then why isn't it working now? Or if this worked for me, back then why can't I do the same thing? Our children are different.
Well, it doesn't work now because literally many of us were abused. Some people out there listening to me may think that I'm crazy. Yes, my mother physically disciplined me when I was a child, but it was many times it crossed the line to what would now be considered abuse.
Yeah, definitely.
It's as simple as that.
Absolutely.
And we need to stop pushing it under the rug. And there's a difference between disciplining your child
Right.
with a strap, by hitting them once or whatever, and physically abusing them.
Right. Yeah.
We have to talk about this,
Absolutely.
and we're taking our anger out. A lot of parents are taking their
Definitely.
anger out.
Yeah.
On their kids because of other things falling apart in their lives. We have to be mature. We brought these kids into the world. They don't deserve it.
Absolutely.
You have to love yourself, and then love your kids. You can't do it. Like,
Right.
it's just absolutely uncalled for. If you get angry, walk away. My advice to you is just take a deep breath, walk away, call a friend, call a family member, go for a walk. Whatever it takes, but don't abuse your children. Right. It's a serious issue, and it affects these kids for the rest of their lives.
Exactly. And I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because when we talk about positive discipline and disciplining your child, oftentimes our parents might come and say, well, when are you going to meet my child, right? So this needs to you need to work on my kid because they are just so rude, right? And so this positive discipline workshop doesn't really work on your kid. No, we're actually working with the parents. That's who we're working with. And oftentimes, our family becomes our emotional punching bag. And that's the reality. We're living in a society or, in our work environment where It's very stressful. Everything is stressful, right? We have a lot of challenges, and unfortunately, because of our inability to manage that stress and to manage our emotions around that, we're coming home and we're displacing all of that on our kids, right? Our vulnerable ones are being, impacted by that. And so, yes, fair enough, our children could have some behavioral issues that can be tackled with, but the way you respond to that can make such a difference, on the outcome of that. And so our positive discipline workshop happens. We're going on to our 4th week now, and it's been very successful. We have a full house. We're very proud of it because it really taps into creating a lot of self-awareness for you as a parent on what you can do to improve some of those circumstances. And if you do need additional support to manage your child's behavior, then that will be coupled with some individual sessions, right? So we're also trained parent coaches, and we provide individual one-on-one sessions, whether it is with a couple, with a family, or whether it is with just mom or with dad, who've been separated. I mean, ideally, we always want to work with the entire family so that if you're learning skills and tools, you're learning that jointly, right? And it's not Charmaine is coming in and Charmaine wants to do timeout, or I want to do charting, but my husband doesn't want to, because that's going to create a lot of inconsistency. And a huge part of parenting is to be consistent across the board. You've got to be consistent when you're laying down rules and when you're laying down the consequences of those rules, right? So on Wednesday, you mentioned family skills session. Wednesday is our family skills session, and we're touching on positive discipline. So it's going to be a 1.5-hour session. Childcare would be provided, refreshments will be provided, and we're going to be focusing on how can we best respond to some of these behaviors that are huge triggers for us. Like my child's not listening to me, my child's not complying. Why? Let's talk about why that's not happening, right? And what can you do instead, right? So that's going to be sort of like a 1.5-hour session, very informative, very educational. If you're interested, you can either sign up through our Facebook. There's a registration online link, or you can give us a call at 949-0006. Again, it's going to be, something that our approach is never to sort of like be forceful with, you've got to stop hitting your child because the law says so. Yes, there is a law against corporal punishment, but we also have to meet our parents where they're at. Right. And understand that there is a lot of cultural factors that come into play in terms of why we discipline that in those ways. So let's talk about the impact that that's going to have on that child. Like you mentioned, we do a lot of empathy is embedded in a lot of our sessions that we work on. And so some of it is reflecting on how were you parented and how did you feel as a child when you were parented in that way. So if we can make those connections, then there's going to be more awareness, and with more awareness comes sort of like refraining some of your behaviors and changing some of that.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful, wonderful thing. And again, I want to encourage any listeners out there who can use some tips on how to positively discipline their children. I know that we all can, because we're not perfect people and we're not perfect parents, to give the FRC a call so that you can go to this session this week, interact with other parents, again, get great tips, encourage somebody else to go if you're not interested in going, because I think that these workshops are absolutely fabulous and they're awesome, and the team makes you feel so comfortable. You may go there, you may not say a word, but at least you'll listen. But go, get involved, speak, be honest about what's happening in your life. And if, it may just be an opportunity for you to see that, okay, the open session, group sessions are not what I'm looking for, but maybe if I can get some one-on-one sessions, because there are some folks that are like that.
Yeah, just, definitely. Group is not for everybody. And that's okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But at least go out and find out what it's about and see how you can get involved in being better parents. Because I always say, our children are a reflection of who we are.
Definitely.
And we are a reflection of who our parents are. So if we were disciplined in a certain way, we tend to carry that across.
Yeah.
And then with all the stresses of today's world, it makes it even more. So we're at such a great disadvantage in so many ways.
That's such an excellent point. Well said.
Yeah. So SNAP, we talked about that. We talked about positive discipline sessions that are going to be happening on Wednesdays. Let's talk about the next program that you guys have in place.
So we have a co-parenting program also. We are starting a new cohort, I believe, late April, early May. co-parenting has also been a new program that we've started, and it spoke to the need. Again, we're getting a lot of referrals from the court system, from social services, because there is a high divorce rate here in Cayman, there, internationally too. And so we wanted to make sure that we were equipping parents with the skills they needed to manage life post-separation, right? And manage their children after divorce. So it's really interesting, because I always like to say, when we're debriefing that group, because right now the group is running, but the new cohort is starting again. Parents that come to that group are very quick to say, it's her or it's his problem. Kind of like, if they wouldn't act that way, then we wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have to be in this group right now if they would change their behavior. Yeah. Right. But we're the only ones that are in control of our own behavior. Right. Absolutely. We're the only ones that can manage our own behaviors, and the way in which we respond to those triggers, whether it is that co-parent or that ex-partner is a trigger, is going to impact your child's experience. So the entire group is about your child. It's about making sure that we're aware of our own adult behaviors, and we're creating positive experiences for that child when that child is with you. Right? Because we can't control what's happening to that child when that child is with the other parent, unless the report that's coming forward from your child is a negative one, where the child is being abused, like you said, is being neglected. Those are things that you do have a right to speak on. Right? But if and oftentimes they are little things that just irk the other parent, or it's kind of like, I asked to do this and the container is the different container, but I gave them this container. They're just doing this to provoke me.
Oh my goodness, the blame game, that blame game.
Yeah, it's a lot of blame. And so there are so many aha moments for our co-parents in that group, because they realize at the end of 10 weeks that I can make a difference in my child's experience. Divorce doesn't have to damage my child. I can be the mature adult, and I can be child-centered and future-driven. Fair enough, this relationship didn't work, and there's a lot of hurt that sometimes drives all those negative experiences and negative interactions between you and the other co-parent. But we need to move past that, and we need to make sure that that child who did not have a say, who did not have a choice in the fact that the relationship did not work out, has a positive experience, and that child is being parented by two mature adults that can come up with with effective plans to make sure that the child doesn't feel sort of like the negative impacts of this, because it can get very nasty.
Sure. I mean, and nobody wants to separate or go through a divorce, because it can have a negative impact on children. But I always say, if something like that happens, you have to be able to sit your kids down and talk to them and say, look, mommy and daddy being together is more unhealthy for all of us, and is going to impact us more negatively than if daddy and mommy are not together. And we're going to work really hard.
And people grow apart, It
happens to the best of us. It's reality. It's not what the Bible says we should do. It's not, it's not like how it was back in the days when my mom and my grandmother and great grandmother, they stuck to their spouses and their partners because they really had no other choice. One, they were looked upon, they were stigmatized as, she's gone with somebody else and left her husband. The kids, they didn't have the financial support that they needed because they weren't out working. So there were a lot of things that kept families together. Right. And now we have another set of issues where, single mothers are looked down upon because society doesn't see us as being as strong as we should be. So it's just the way of the world. But great that there's organizations like the FRC, that's around that can help. Build better parents and better parenting skills and better families and stronger families.
Definitely.
So it's awesome that you guys are here and can help along those lines. So any other programs you want to tell us about?
There's our co-parenting. Healing Circle is going to begin in August. Healing Circle is a support therapeutic group for victims of domestic violence. It has been a great experience. I think it's going to be our fourth time running it in the community. The group piloted in the prison and in Fairbanks Prison. And so we've been fortunate in ensuring that the delivery of it happened in the community also. I think the beauty of the group is that it is a support group for victims, whether you have left the relationship, whether you are contemplating and leaving the relationship and you are still in there, whether you left it 5 years ago, but you're still, you know, feeling the impact of it. This is a support group for those women who have experienced abuse.
We're going to take a quick break there, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about this particular program at the FRC. And welcome back to For the Record. I'm Donna Bush in this Monday for Mr. Orrit Connor. Our guest in studio this morning is a program coordinator at the FRC. That's the Family Resource Center, Mrs. Charmaine Miller. We've been talking about Honoring Women Month. Again, that begins on March the 1st, this Thursday, for the entire month. Lots of activities happening there. If you'd like to get involved in any of their workshops, which happened this week, give them a call at 949-0006. We're also talking about the various programs that this organization and this office offers to the general public. One of those programs is called SNAP. That's geared towards kids ages 6 to 11 who may be having any sort of behavioral issues, issues that we consider to be not the norm in society. However, they're there to help. We talked about positive discipline sessions that are happening on Wednesdays that helps parents who may be having disciplinary problems or issues with their kids and just want answers and help there. And now we're talking about the domestic violence program that's happening. And you mentioned that it started in Fairbanks Prison with the female. That's the female prison.
Right.
And then during the break, we had a little discussion about the various types of domestic
abuse.
Violence. And, honestly, I find that not everybody really focuses on the other types of domestic violence or abuses that occur, particularly when it comes to men as well. We always think, oh, it's just, a man hitting a woman.
Right.
Let's talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, abuse, does not discriminate. It can either be physical, emotional, sexual, psychological, mental. And so it's really important that we're mindful of that, and that we don't only think that women are the only victims of domestic violence. Men are victimized also. It's just that the abuse may be different. They might be more emotionally or psychologically abused, as opposed to our women who are, based on statistics, physical abuse is the most prominent type of abuse women experience by men. So, whenever it comes to domestic violence, it's really important that as a culture we are sending the right message in that it is not okay to abuse anyone, no matter your race, your ethnicity, your culture, your age. It's just absolutely not okay, right? And so sometimes when we hear side conversations about what happened, we're very quick to blame. We're very quick to blame victims and just assume automatically must have been something that they did. Must have been something that they did because that person just does not act that way. I just find it hard to see that. It's a lot of that's very common, but we don't know the background information. Right. We don't know what happens behind closed doors, right? And so it's really important that we're non-judgmental and that we're sending messages that absolutely there's zero tolerance. So there's no space for any type of abuse. Whether you are in your office setting, whether you're in a coffee shop, whether you are at home, whatever it is absolutely not okay, right? And it's not okay to laugh at situations like that or to make a mockery of those situations, whether you are a male victim or a female victim, because oftentimes if you hear about those situations, it's not the first time that it's happened. It's happened before. You just haven't heard about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about the fact that, particularly here in Cayman and around the world, domestic violence is always considered, a male against female physical abuse. And I was saying to you that I see so many men being verbally and psychologically abused, from my own personal observations. Just in various relationships, that I may have with friends, family, and what have you. But the women in those cases don't see what they're doing as abuse, but it is a form of abuse.
Yeah, definitely.
When you're going to curse out your partner or you're going to,
intimidate him.
A lot of times in front of the children, and then we wonder why they go running, why they go running out, to go out to maybe a bar or I'm not condoning those behaviors, However, we need to be realistic and be honest with ourselves. And I'm not saying myself, but I'm just saying generally as women, a lot of times the way the men in our lives react is because of how we've treated them. And we don't consider how we treat them sometimes as being abusive, when in fact it very much is so.
Right.
So I think that all types of women from all walks of life can benefit from a workship like this or from these types of sessions.
I mean, we have our domestic violence intervention training program, which happens quarterly. There's a new training date that's happening in May. And so if you're interested in participating in that, whether you are a frontline professional or a community member, you can also sign up for that workshop. And so it's really a great workshop because it speaks to understanding the dynamics of abuse, right? And how we can best respond to those situations as professionals. Because, sometimes, what I've had, if you are a police officer, and a male victim comes, forward and wants to report a situation where they're being victimized by their wives or their female partner, that's not a situation that should be taken lightly. It's not something where the message should be like, you should go home because you should be the man of the house in this situation. No. How could you let them do that? Right? There should be no judgment definitely delivered when you're communicating. It should be the same approach. It should be one where you're empathic, where you're open to have that conversation with that other person, whether it is a male or whether it is a female, right? And that we're relaying the right message and we're providing the support that both need. So I definitely think that whenever we talk about domestic abuse, we have to make sure that we are empathic, that we're not judging the other person for whatever circumstances led to that, and we're delivering a message of zero tolerance to any form of abuse.
Charmaine Miller, it's been perfectly awesome having you here with us this morning. Again, if you want any information on what's happening for Honoring Women Month, which begins this Thursday, March the 1st, give the Family Resource Center a call at 949-0006. That's 949-0006. For our listeners, we thank you for joining us to talk about this particular subject. We're going to take a break and come back and speak to Mr. James Miles from the Youth Services Department. And welcome back. If you're just joining us this morning, I'm Donna Bush in for Mr. Orrit Connor this week. We've just finished up our conversation with the Family Resource Center as they told us about what's going to be happening in the month of March during Honoring Women Month. Lots of activities happening there. If you want to learn more, you can always give them a call at 949-0006 for the details there. But now I'm fortunate enough to have in the studio with us Mr. James Miles. He's the Youth Services Coordinator from the Youth Services Department. Welcome. You're a hardworking man. I know that you're stretched thin and you're really involved with our young people locally. But one particular event we want to talk about your involvement in is the BRAC Spring Weekend. Yes. What is that all about? What's the objective, first of all, of
the
BRAC
Youth Services Unit has 3 special events to do for each year. And one of them we always try to make sure is in the BRAC. And it happens every March as our BRAC Spring Weekend. We started that back in 2015, and we took go-karts with us and stuff, and that was a hit.
Oh, that's great.
So this year, we don't have go-karts, so we can have a car and bike show.
Oh,
we can have the ever popular 3-on-3 basketball tournament, our youth forum, which is sponsored by Cayman National. That's always a fixture that we always have because we want to gather the voice of the youth on the BRAC to see what their issues are and how they can be addressed. Last year we did a scavenger hunt and they want that back again, so we got the scavenger hunt as well. This year we're throwing in the domino tournament. We're doing it because we really want to try to get older youth there and men to kind of find out what the men's issues are and stuff. And domino tables is always how men kind of gel and talk and banter back and forth.
Right.
So that is the aim behind the domino tournament, and they try to get older youth. And that will coincide with the car and bike show.
So what are the age groups we're talking about here when we say youth, just so that everyone
the
knows?
National Youth Policy defines our youth as age 10 to 25.
Okay.
So you could see through the 6 events that we have planned for 2 days, it spans that age range.
And how many, do you have a number on how many youth will be, how many young men and women will be going from here on Grand Cayman over to Cayman BRAC to be a part of the weekend? Do we have any numbers?
14.
14. And then what do the numbers look like?
And if they stretch the definition of youth to include me, it'll be...
You're not a young man anymore.
You're
middle-aged.
It'll be about 17, delegation of 17 from Grand Cayman.
Okay, that includes the adults who will be supervising.
Yeah, our staff
obviously.
at the Youth Services Unit and some supervisors.
Okay, and then overall, how many kids usually come out over on the BRAC for the weekend of events? Do we have any numbers?
On children,
data?
a lot of them attend the basketball tournament.
Okay.
When we had kickball last year, we average about 60 young people at each of the events.
Oh,
but
that's
I'm thinking the whole of Cayman Rack is coming to this car and bike show.
All right.
The domino tournament, I think it could be a lot of people there.
So you're talking about probably a few hundred people.
I think all Cayman Rack could come and they can warm up for the Ag show.
Oh,
because
okay.
you know they can all go to the Ag show.
Right.
And that's later on in the month of March as well.
So where are most of these events taking place on the BRAC?
Well, on the Friday, all the events are at the high school. We have the youth forum for high school age students. The last 2 periods of Friday afternoon. And then we have the 3-on-3 basketball tournament that night at the high school basketball courts. And our team won last year.
When you say our team, what do you mean our team?
The team from Grand Cayman
Okay.
won last year. So
You have a record to retain.
I won't win bad, but I know they're going to be coming hard.
Well, good for them. I mean,
They might bring the whole of Cayman back just to make sure they beat us.
they have the home court advantage, right?
That's how they beat us the first time. I mean, they had like 1 million subs and we like had 2 guys and we were just frauding.
Yeah.
So I think they might use our strategy and that's why I hope they're not listening.
Okay, so why?
Or if they're listening, forget it. Don't bring all them people.
Jama,
have 'em watch.
why does the BRAC Spring Weekend mean so much to the youth service? You did mention in the beginning that it's one of 3 major events planned by the department each year. But why is it important to have this?
Well, it's important to bridge the gap between the youth in the Sister Islands and the youth from Grand Cayman. A lot of times when there's policies written, when there's directives given, they seem to only apply to Grand Cayman and we don't leave the BRAC out. I don't know about any other government department, but not the Youth Services Unit.
That's
We're
awesome.
not leaving the BRAC youth out at all because we know that they're a critical part of our development. Just like any other population of any other district, Cayman BRAC must be served.
So you mentioned that last time you guys went over last year, you took go-karts. And this year you're going to do a car and bike show. Now, explain to us how that's going to work. Because I think people envision, like a barge going over taking vehicles or a boat going over taking vehicles. Is that the case? Or
No, we showcase everything that Chris Oak in the BRAC.
Okay. All right.
No, it's a time for them to show up all their nice cars that they've imported.
Right.
And all their nice bikes that they've imported. So we leave that for them. And if they're great and they really want to make a splash, their cars that win over there, if they want to bring them over here and take part in car and bike shows here, that's fine too.
So it's a sound off. What's a sound off?
Sound off is about making noise. A lot of young people invest a lot in their speaker systems and their sound systems. They might not do in the care of their car. They might buy a $1,500 car and put a $3,000 system in it. So because they pride their system, we want to give them opportunities as well.
Oh, that's awesome. So are you guys at a point now where you have everybody that's going to be involved, or would you like to make a call out to some folks on the BRAC that, there's still time? What?
You asking a West Bay to shout at a BRACA? Here it is. Listen, all on the BRACas. Listen to what I got to say. If you not got your bike and car ready yet, get it ready. Go check Jonathan Tibbetts. He can get your form.
Okay.
Just come out. Make sure she clean and make sure you're good. That's it. That's all it is. It's free. It don't cost you nothing.
So tell us about the bonfire that's going to be happening.
Well, it all culminates with a bonfire. We'll have James Gary playing live music. Imagine the setting of a bonfire on the Southside Beach in Cayman Rack. Nice warmth from the fire and then some soft acoustic type music by James Gary. It's just a chill way of ending a really, really busy weekend.
So for those out there who may be listening or tuned in that don't know who James Gary is, can you give us a little background on who James Gary is?
James Gary is a former CARICOM youth ambassador for the Cayman Islands. He represents the Cayman Islands in rugby and in powerlifting. But most of all, this guy went to school at Anderson University and studied music
All right.
and sociology and a couple of the majors. I don't know.
He's just bright.
He just bright. And he good. He sound like John Legend, and it's wonderful.
Oh, wow.
And now he plans to lend his star power to this event, and I want to thank him for it, for coming alongside us and saying, listen, let's make this a cool, memorable event that people will be talking about. Wow, we can't wait for Black Spring Weekend 19 because 18 was awesome.
Yeah. So the BRAC Youth Forum, that kicks off the first night, like you mentioned, on March the 9th. Tell us what participants can expect. For those of us who won't be going and don't know about the event and the weekend of plans, what will the participants, the young people, get out of that forum?
That forum is for high school youth. We're trying to get a spread of age 10 straight up to whatever the high school offers.
Mm-hmm.
And there is where they actually voice their issues. We're there with 2 ears and 1 mouth, and that's only to say, hi, we're here to listen. It'll be facilitated by the Youth Assembly,
Mm-hmm.
but the Youth Assembly is also working on their issue, which is sexual relations and stuff like that. That was something that was highlighted in the survey that they did.
Mm-hmm.
So they will be kind of asking some questions about that to get the youth of Cayman Brack's opinion on that issue as well.
Okay.
So that might take up a part of the forum, but it's mostly about hearing their concerns and how they could be addressed.
Okay, so basically it's an open floor question and answer session. So they do get answers to some of their concerns there.
Yes.
What about the things that can't be answered there? Where is that information? When that information is compiled, then what's done?
Well, the feedback from that forum will also lead into the national forum, which will be held in April down here in Grand
Right.
Cayman.
Okay.
So those issues will be brought to the fore there as well,
Mm-hmm.
and hopefully they can have some resolution there. If not, they'll come up with some kind of position that they could present to the Minister for Youth, and that she could take forward on behalf of the youth of the Cayman Islands.
What about the basketball tournament? Would you like to see the numbers grow there, or how would you? What would you like to say to the Brackers out there who can come out and support, or who can come out and participate? Tell us exactly how they can get involved in that.
The first time we did basketball, it was just us in one team from Cayman Brack, made up of about 40 people.
Okay.
And they run us through the ground, right?
Okay.
So this last year, we said, no, listen, you got to be organized. This is a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. You only limited 5 people on a team. You can have like 4 or 5 different teams if you want, but you can't just have everybody just in and out, in and out, in and out. I mean, they were like unlimited subs, and they really killed us, right? But so last year, because we were organized and having a real kind of 3-on-3 thing, we actually won.
Okay.
Grand Cayman. So we got the trophy ball, and we could be bringing the trophy ball back thanks to Winner's Circle.
Okay.
So we have our names on it. We might want to keep it. It's up to the Brackers to give us a challenge, and they're always up to it.
Right.
I'm thinking we could get a lot of teams this
This
time,
year.
because they don't like losing. Brackers.
Yeah. Well, who likes to lose, right? But they are very bright people. Our sister
No, I mean,
Islanders.
you gotta learn to lose.
To me, they're
gracefully
some of the
too.
brightest
You gotta learn
Caymanians.
to lose gracefully too. I mean,
Yeah, good
I-
sportsmanship. Yes.
So,
I agree.
we had to take it the first time.
All right. So you mentioned a scavenger hunt.
Actually, I want to thank Progressive Distributors Limited for donating the cases of Gatorade that will be prize packs for the winners.
Yeah.
And I want to thank Mose Colonel for allowing us to ship it to his supermarket, and we can
Okay.
get it there. So he'll be paying for the shipping for us, and we want to thank Deputy Premier for that.
Okay. Well, we know that these events can't happen. And even though it's the Youth Services Department and we know that it's government funded, you can't go without having private sector support. Are there any other sponsors out there that you'd like to thank? Or would you like to make a last minute call out for anybody that can provide other material or supplies for this weekend?
Yeah, we want to thank Rubus for coming on board and sponsoring all the trophies for the car, bike, and sound off.
Okay.
And we want to thank Credit Union for coming on board to sponsoring the Domino tournament, which I know is going to be a hit. We're taking Andrel
Oh, Andrel.
Harris.
Oh, is he really good at okay.
A.K.A. Domino Zeus.
Okay. All righty. So he's
Last year, people came over because we had like a special little like surprise birthday bash for Camille, who's my co-worker. And all them came over by the pool at Carib Sands, and we were playing dominoes and things.
Right.
Like, so who else wants $6 long? He like, throwing down $6 like crazy right now.
Yeah.
So I think they know about Andrew.
Okay. We're going to stick a pin there. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion. Right now on For the Record, we're going to take a break. And welcome back to For the Record as we get ready to wrap up our show in just a few minutes. I'm Donna Bush in for Oric Connor this week. And with us in the studio for our last half of the show is Mr. James Miles. He is the Youth Services Coordinator from the Youth Services Department. And we're talking about the BRAC Spring Weekend, which is happening from March 9th and 10th, on March 9th and 10th, on our sister island of Cayman BRAC. It's great that you always want to involve our youth over on our sister island because, like you mentioned, sometimes they're forgotten, and that's not so cool. Yeah. That's just not cool. Kids don't consider that to be cool.
Nobody does.
Exactly.
If you're forgotten, everybody feels like,
of course.
Forget about me.
So it's geared towards youth who are between the ages of 10 and 25. And we've talked about a number of the events. We were talking about, I think, the domino tournament, and you were thanking some of the sponsors when we took our break.
Yes. Credit Union is coming on board to make our domino tournament awesome. That could be really nice. We could actually have a credit union table, which is double the points. Just in their honor.
And I can see the excitement in your face. Are you playing?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
My partner could be Andrea.
All righty. So tell us, there are a number of events. There's a scavenger hunt. There's a car and bike show. There's a domino tournament. There's a basketball tournament. And, of course, persons it's competition.
Yes.
What kind of prizes do you have an offer, and who helped get those prizes to you?
For basketball, we can have trophies, and they're sponsored by the unit and by Winner Circle. And Winner Circle also provided trophy balls, so whichever team wins get the game ball as well.
Yeah, that's great.
Progressive was giving us Gatorade for juniors and seniors division. Mm-hmm. Each member of the winning team would get a case of Gatorade.
Oh,
so
okay.
I want to thank Progressive for doing that as well, and for Mose Colonel for paying for the shipping for us and allowing us to not have to
bear that cost.
The cost of 15 cases of Gatorade on Cayman Airways would be like taking 10 people to Cayman. Right?
Yeah.
So, because they're heavy, and having them shipped over is a plus.
Okay.
The BRAC Forum. Mm-hmm. It starts everything off, and Cayman National come on board, and they've given us some really nice gift stuff for the young people there as well. Pens and notepads and stuff. They're really awesome.
Oh, they're a great organization. Shout out to Cayman National Bank. I'm a customer, but other than that, even if I wasn't a customer, I would still be giving them a shout out because they are just awesome sponsors, particularly as it relates to young people. Yes. So,
yeah, they've always been there for us and the unit. They've always been very supportive of any time that we ran out of money. That was our bank to go to.
Yeah.
And they've always come alongside us and made our events awesome. Okay. What else?
The car and bike show. What
Rubis
kind of
has come on board to say that they'll do all the trophies for us. I was hoping that they would throw in some gas vouchers or something too, but we'll have to find out how it works over in the BRAC.
Right.
They could do it if it was here,
right?
But it might be I don't know. We're still trying to iron that out with Rubis, see if they could still give us some prize back, because the fuel in the BRAC is also Rubis.
Okay.
So maybe they could work out with their dealers up there.
That would be great. Even some $25 gift certificate or gift vouchers for gas, I think would be awesome. Yeah. I'm not trying to put them on a spot here if they're listening, but Rubis, yes, give some gift vouchers for this great event that's happening on the BRAC over the weekend.
And I think that's it for sponsors.
Okay, all right. But so you don't need any more sponsors at this point?
Oh, yeah.
You do? Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. And for those of you out there who are listening, I mean, we always think as a people, we always feel if we can't build the entire house at one time, we're not going to build it. We're going to wait till we get all the money. And the same thing works for our mindset when it comes to sponsorship. Oh, I can only give $5, so I don't want to give anything. Every dollar counts. So if you're listening this morning and you can help these young people and you help the Youth Services Department have a great weekend on the 9th and 10th of March, which is only days away, It doesn't matter how much you're going to give. Get in touch with the Youth Services Department. Get in touch with James Miles and say, look, I can give you $25. I can give you $100. If you can give $1,000, even better. But give what you can give.
Yeah,
So
we're
how
looking
can
prizes for a scavenger hunt.
There you go. So tell us about that.
Last year, when we did the scavenger hunt, Honorable Moses Kirkconnell came on and said, what prizes you want? I wouldn't mind giving away $500.
Okay.
And we'll split it up between first, second, and third.
Right.
And we'll have a blast. We had like 6 teams or 7 teams take part. First prize was like $300. So we want to try to do that again. I think that's probably what made it so wow. And I could actually learn about Cayman Brack.
That's a draw. That's a draw.
Because a lot of the young people that we took with us was the first time they went to the Brack. So I said, you could team up with some Brackers and they show you where some of these places is.
Yeah.
And if not, we had Brackers come back and say they learned more about Cayman Brack from our scavenger hunt. They learned some things.
Is great.
And I think that's the great thing about doing a scavenger hunt. And it keeps the grey matter churning and it creates a level of intrigue and mystique. And when you actually come through and you actually win and you get money for it, and whoa.
Yeah. I mean, business here in Grand Cayman can certainly help because many Brackers come over here during the year, so they can visit the turtle farm. They can do things like that they typically wouldn't do here if, you get gift vouchers and stuff from here, as well as on the Brack. I mean, you've got a lot of water sports businesses. You've got rock climbing over there now. I mean, that, some Brackers may not necessarily normally pay to do, but it's great. It's a great experience for them, great exposure for the company that's doing it. So all of our listeners out there this morning, come on. Dig into your wallets. Doesn't matter how small it is. Let's try and get some gifts and some giveaways and some prizes for this Brack Spring Weekend that's taking place. How can they get in touch with you, Jamo?
And they can call the Youth Services Unit at 943-1127, or they can email me at james.miles@gov.ky.
So that's 943-1127 or
james.miles@gov.ky.
All right.
And we'll collect the prizes if you're a business in the Brack and you want to give some of your services or a gift certificate, and that'll be wonderful because the Brackers can use it right away. If you're on Grand Cayman and you still want to give us some prizes, that's fine. The Brackers can find their way here, especially during the summer or something, and that school's out, they can still take part. So prizes for our scavenger hunt would be awesome.
All right. So to the folks here in Grand Cayman, if you can help to support financially or by way of gifts, the Brack Spring Weekend that's coming up on March 9th and 10th, please get in touch with Mr. James Miles or someone else at the Youth Services Department on 943-1127, or you can email Mr. Miles on James, that's JAMES .Miles, MYLES @gov.ky. Get yourself involved. For those folks over in the Brack, if you don't know about this event yet or you were hesitant about being involved or going out as a supporter, lots of great things are going to be happening as far as basketball games, a car and bike show, a domino tournament, lots of events to kick off. There'll be a forum at the Lehman Scott High School, a Brack Youth Forum, and then to end the weekend, there will be a bonfire social with entertainment by Mr. James Gary. So young and old on the Brack, if you're listening, go out and support this weekend of events. All right. So any final words?
Well, I want to thank you for giving me a spot on For the Record, that we can get our message out and that we care about all the youth of the Cayman Islands.
Yes. And
that we're here for every one of them. Our motto is empowering the nation one youth at a time, and it starts every single day as the morning crack of dawn.
Well, James, I want to thank you for making it so easy to always have a great conversation with you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
I'm sure people tell you that all the time. All right, so the Brack Spring Weekend there.
Lady. Talking to you.
All righty. So we're going to wrap things wrap up things here a few minutes early on For the Record for this Monday. I hope that you listeners who are tuned in this morning will join us again here on Wednesday morning. For now, I'm Donna Bush, wishing you a wonderful, amazing, incredible day here in our beautiful islands.
Informative, impartial, insightful.
This is your talk show.
1-800-534-8255. Your calls, your input. This is For the Record.